really enjoyed your podcast.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's full of content and very helpful for a lot of people. And it's come at a timely period in the world where we're all got these challenges that with infectious diseases and new rules about social interaction, and I think it's been a great resource for a lot of people. And it's also coincided with a renaissance in the concepts of natural health, which is one of the things that's really has appealed to me about yoga and Ayurveda, because they are tied to nature's rhythms. And I think that science, and my passion is about connecting, because of my scientific background, connecting traditional health with scientific research and showing how science is now validating thousands of years of traditional health practices, and many of them, and most of them, centering around reconnecting with nature's rhythms, which is the central tenet really of Ayurveda. So can you tell us a little bit about how Ayurveda, yoga and meditation sits in, how that they're kind of separate systems, but they're all part of the one as well? How do they fit together?
Okay, perfect. They're all just really a big puzzle, and you come at these things from different points of view, but they're all in the same end goal, right? You might come into health through Ayurveda. Ayurveda is dealing more with the physical body. So it's a system of medicine, 5,000 years old, from India, that deals with how to holistically heal, not just on a physical space, but deeper. But it really focuses on your lifestyle, your diet, what you're doing on a regular basis, how you're treating your senses. It's interesting. There's a Ayurvedic text, the old Vedas. So they're books that are, 3,000-ish years old. So they're not as old as Ayurveda, because it did take some time for them to be written down and become kind of a systematic medicine. But in the Karaka Samhita, they talk about the parts of the person that were the physical body, were the mental body, were the soul, and the senses. And so Ayurveda uses the senses for treatment and for therapy. And everything that we do is in some way affecting our senses. So whether you're living a life that's creating ill health and imbalance because of taking in too much through your senses, then you're going to be having problems. But if you're able to kind of rein those in, way of taking like the physical desires that we have and keep them at a healthy level, you're not taking in excess, then you're using your senses properly. So most of the therapies in Ayurveda use wide modalities of senses, and people will tend to think, well, it's just diet. I'm going to do an Ayurvedic diet. But there's so much more to it than that, because we're healing the body at a deeper level than just, one modality. We're using lots of things. And then we look at yoga, and yoga is thought of in the West, and I don't know if it's viewed this way in Australia as much. You'll have to share this with me, but as more of a physical practice. Most people think of it as poses. Yeah. So it's similar there. And I think unless you grew up in a traditional yogic culture, more Eastern, you're going to have that view that it's just a bunch of poses that we do together in a classroom and we say namaste at the end. But yoga is actually a spiritual practice. So Ayurveda is dealing with physical aspects of the body and the soul and the mind. And then we deal with the more spiritual parts of who we are through yoga. So when you put those two things together, you end up with a complete science. Meditation, I look at it like it's this umbrella that goes over it all, right? Because you can eat in a way that is meditative. And for me, when I say that, I mean mindful, present, aware. You're in touch with what's happening in this moment, because that's what meditation is. And you can do yoga in a way that is mindful, present, but you can also do both of them completely ignorant to what's actually going on. So it's not the doing, it's the how you're doing something that brings in that meditative space. But the three work so well together. And there's a lot of principles that overlap between them. You can't heal the physical body without affecting the emotional, spiritual side, and vice versa. So you really want to work with them together to get the most benefit.
So Ayurveda keeps our body healthy, so we can do our yoga to keep our mind healthy, so we can therefore do our meditation, so that I can reconnect with the rhythms of nature.
Exactly. I love it. What a great synopsis.
I love what you said about the senses, because we've traditionally talked about hearing and thoughts and sight and taste and stuff. And one of the fascinating things for me has been the finding recently by science of mitochondria free in the blood. We've always thought that mitochondria were inside cells and produced ATP for our energy. But about 2 months ago, we discovered that mitochondria are actually floating free in the bloodstream. And this is a great scientific breakthrough. And in fact, last week even blew my mind further, because we have always realized that mitochondria produce our energy in form of ATP. But last week, first time ever, we discovered that mitochondria produce a chemical which directly kills pathogens. So we've always thought the mitochondria have been important for the immune system because they power it. The immune system is very energy dependent, and it gets that energy from mitochondria. But now we know that mitochondria, which are these ancient bacteria in our bodies, produce an antimicrobial substance to keep these pathogens in check. But also what I think we are going to find is that mitochondria free in our blood are this next sense that we know that animals have, but we have neglected. And it's to do with us being in tune with nature's rhythms and circadian rhythms and the things in our environment. And this is just there's so many places to go with this, because I mean, this is information which has been central to traditional health practices, and Ayurveda is the oldest of those. In fact, I was fascinated. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to James Nestor's podcast with Joe Rogan about breath work, when he said that they discovered breath work 6,000 years ago as the first kind of recorded information about the knowledge of breath work. And it was Patanjali 2,000 years who recorded it and written. And I'm like, we're just now discovering about mitochondria picking up nature's rhythms, and we're finding out that how important breath work is. Science is just starting to validate the importance of knowing how to breathe properly. But this was all kind of taught 6,000 years ago. And I just find it really fascinating. So I want to ask you a little bit about Ayurveda and the circadian rhythms. Well, in fact, to go into circadian rhythms in Ayurveda, we need to understand a little bit about the three doshas.